Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Saltovation. Uh, with school getting being over and summer rolling in, we are going to kick off a new series called "What Makes Us Salty." Meredith, go ahead.
All right, here's looking at you, two-factor authentication on state websites, or state websites in general, because they're a pain in the ass. They are all different. You can tell who backs one versus the other. But the biggest thing is two-factor authentication, which presumes that the same person has been at the company the whole time. One master administrator is assigned. They have to grant access in some of these states to everyone else. Okay, cool. This person left the company 15 years ago and didn't have the wherewithal to transition that account. I need to set another up. I need to set up another account. It's got to be approved. Why? Like, I have a notice, I have a letter. Just give me access. All I want to do is make it easy to give you your tax. Don't two-factor, and then it expires in 14 seconds, right? Like, my internet's crappy. I have AT&T. If I'm on my phone, that thing's not coming in for 14 years. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. So, just two-factor authentication. I appreciate that maybe you want to keep things secure. Fine. But give me the option to turn it off. Thank you, Denver. Thank you, Illinois. I can turn you off. But just, for the love of, just make it easier.
Right.
It's amazing how much time we spend trying to gain access to accounts because of things like email verifications and two-factor authentications. But I think over the years of working through these issues, we found a few hacks, cheat codes that we'll try to share to maybe alleviate this a little bit.
Yeah, and I would say that, we really want to help our clients with this issue. And we want, so for, in Meredith's example, if somebody leaves the company, we're really happy to try to help get access. It's not easy. There are times when we may have to call like the central registration unit of a state, which seems preposterous because, as Meredith said, we might have a letter. We might have a letter ID. We might have an account number. But because somebody's old email is associated with that account, we're not able to access it. We may even have that email, meaning the address, but not access to it. So we feel the frustration, hence the reason these things make us salty, but it also means that it takes a lot of time to gain that access. But we're willing to do it. But as Alex said, some of the things that we have found that can maybe alleviate some of the pain points are to set up a central email. So whether it's accounting at, the company's domain or tax at the company's domain, and have several people associated with that email address, that can tend to help because then maybe a two-factor authentication is going to that central email and multiple people can access it. We've even found with some of our clients that they can add us as external advisors to those emails, which is really helpful so that we're not pinging somebody at the company saying, hey, Washington sent you a code. It only lasts for 5 minutes. Can you please send that to me? So we have found that there are some workarounds in that vein that can help. Anybody else?
And so along the same lines, I think another pain point related to accounts that I think all of us have encountered is where a company might have like a payroll account in existence, but not a sales tax account. And getting access to that at all, not just the two-factor, but even having access to that login can be challenging where it's the payroll person who's left the company and there's no way of getting access. So having that centralized email account so that, the providers like us can access, or, whoever is able to provide at least an account so that we can help, right? Add other registrations and also obviously help, the taxpayer and client to be in compliance. I mean, that's, I think, a best practice, even, I would say, where, things are moving and there's lots of hands involved. So definitely thinking about other things that are impacted would be good.
Absolutely, and and another best practice is to not shut down internal emails too quickly. If you have an employee who one of their tasks is to maintain these accounts or access them on a regular basis, that and the two-factor authentications might be tied to their email, and they leave, maybe keep that email open and then potentially even sign it over to some sort of supervisor who's still there who can forward those emails. Because if that email is shut down and that two factor code goes into the black hole, then it just adds a lot more time and effort to try to unwind that and reset that email. Then and on the point of people leaving, consultants can come and go too, right? So it's important to maintain login credentials and two-factor authentication emails internally as well. We find this not only between one tax type, but when you combine tax types, right? You have access to a Department of Revenue portal because of a payroll account, and then you need to add a sales tax account, or vice versa, right? And this one set of consultants on the payroll side maintain these login credentials, and then we try to add a sales tax account on the tax consultant side, and we try to log in to create a new registration, and the system says, "Oh, this FEIN is unavailable because an account already exists." I'm like, "Oh, okay, probably payroll. Let's go figure it out," right? So you have to kind of go down that path and figure out who has it, what it is, do we have access to it, and try to, it could be a simple answer if records are maintained, or it could be a rabbit hole that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. And we could be forced to actually paper file like a sales tax registration because of that issue where an EIN is already registered for a different type of tax, which adds more time. So we may have clients that are eager to get set up. We're trying to do the right thing, but our hands can be a little bit tied because of some of these issues with the account access.
And I think it all kind of comes back to what we had talked about before of just interdepartmental communications of, HR is doing something that payroll is doing, that someone else, that tax is doing, and just maintaining those centralized records is important. And also potentially even incorporating that into kind of an exit kind of mechanism. Like when someone leaves, your kind of exit interviews of like, hey, what accounts do you have access to that we need to be aware of, that we need to change? Or, again, heart of everything tends to be communication and keeping kind of everyone in the loop that needs to be in the loop.
And then even at the front end, Mayor, I think, if a company is using like a PEO and they're responsible for setting up all the payroll accounts, it's like up front, you would say, hey, we need access to all these accounts, the credentials and login accounts for our records, where, if you don't proactively do that, it might be harder to get the right person to give you that information too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Saltovation. Meredith, thank you. This was a good one. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let us know. We can. I'm sure we can come up with more.
There's several pain points I think that we all have. So yeah.
Plenty of things that make us salty, and you as well.
And we're here to help you when you're salty as well.